everybody, DF here. Welcome to Beauties and Beasts, a podcast of all things Beauty and the Beast. From this podcast alone, I'm sure you can determine the general formula for fairy tales. A prince or princess falls into some trouble, usually a curse, and thanks to their true love, the spell is broken. The prince and princess get married and live happily ever after. Well, as enchanted as we are about that happy little scenario, real life just doesn't work that way. Peter S. Beagle's 1968 novel, The Last Unicorn, takes us into the familiar realm of fantasy, but turns all the fairy tale tropes on their heads, grounding these fantastical elements in reality, so to speak, as it tells the story of the last unicorn on Earth as she journeys to find other unicorns, and along the way is transformed into a human. So, here's our Beauty and the Beast element, which, spoiler alert, if you've not read the book, does not end in the way you expect. The book was adapted into an animated film in 1982 from Rankin Bass Productions. Hey, 40th anniversary this year. Why am I feeling so old all of a sudden? Anyway, this movie is one of the closest book adaptations I've ever seen. Most of the scenes are word for word from the novel, the only changes being cut for time and songs by the band America are added. So, as I go through the plot, it's for both the book and the film, and I will touch upon some of the scenes that didn't make it into the movie. Before we get into this, I'd like to thank my $5 plus patrons, Arvin Joshua Rocks 15, BellaPinkSavage, Cosmic Trail, nalaxsimba, and TyrannosaurusVenom for their continuing support. As the series comes to a close, by August, the patron program will transfer over to Patreon. You can also show your support by buying my merchandise on Redbubble. Just go to DisneyFanatic23.redbubble.com, featuring my LGBT flags and designs for my queer-coded webcomic on masks, stickers, apparel, bags, mugs, and more. Alright, so the story of The Last Unicorn begins with a unicorn in charge of protecting her forest and all the animals within it. One day, she overhears from human hunters that she is the last unicorn in the world, which she can't believe because unicorns live forever. How could she be the last one? And then she hears from a singing butterfly that the unicorns passed down all the roads long ago, and the Red Bull ran close behind them and covered their footprints. So, the unicorn leaves her forest to find the Red Bull and what's become of the others. In her wanderings, she quickly learns that humans cannot see her horn, and she is mistaken for a white mare, giving her hope that unicorns are not lost, but merely in hiding. One night, while the unicorn sleeps, a caravan for Mommy Fortuna's midnight carnival passes by. Mommy Fortuna, a witch, and voiced by Angela Lansbury in the movie, can see the unicorn, but her hunchback companion, Rook, only sees a horse. As for her magician, Schmendrick, he tells the witch he only sees a white mare. Thank you, Alan Arkin, for that cover. Mommy Fortuna puts the sleeping unicorn in a cage, gives her a horn that non-believers can see, and uses her in her carnival sideshow. But looking around, the unicorn discovers the other mythical creatures are merely illusions. Like the manticore is just a toothless lion. Sad animals made to look terrifying, except for a harpy, which is very real. Schmendrick, the magician, tells the unicorn that he knows what she is, and that though the witch takes him for a clown, he does have real magic and promises to help rescue her later. Night falls, and Mommy Fortuna taunts the unicorn, saying she should thank her for protecting her. That if she hadn't caught the unicorn, she would have been left at the mercy of the Red Bull of King Haggard. The unicorn pleads for her release, and also that of the harpy, as she is also a caged immortal being, and sympathizes with her. Mommy Fortuna refuses, despite the unicorn's warnings that the harpy might kill the witch. But Mommy Fortuna's like, oh, she'll kill me one day, but she'll always remember that I caught her, So there's my immortality, eh? And it's so weird seeing Angela Lansbury in such an evil role. When the witch leaves, Schmendrick returns and tries to use his magic to set the unicorn free. Yeah, he's a real magician, but not a very good one, as it shows. He failed to mention that. But he is a good pickpocket and uses the hunchback's keys to open the cage, just as the hunchback comes in and tackles Schmendrick, while the unicorn opens the other cages with her horn. Against Schmendrick's protests, she frees the harpy, and the harpy attacks. Yeah, probably shouldn't have trusted that harpy. It's still a predator. Mommy Fortuna comes out and screams, "You wouldn't have escaped without me! I held you!" and allows the harpy to kill her. Schmendrick and the unicorn slip away while the harpy feasts on the witch and the hunchback. Ugh. Hard to believe that this movie is rated G. Schmendrick regrets leaving the witch to die. I mean, she wasn't the best person, but he didn't really wish her death, you know? But the unicorn insists that the witch chose her death long ago, and that unicorns cannot regret. She can feel sorrow, but it's not the same as regret. She tells of her quest, and Schmendrick offers to help and show her the way to King Haggard's kingdom, where the Red Bull lives. The unicorn agrees, but lets him know that she cannot turn him into a true magician. As they near Haggard's kingdom, Schmendrick is abducted by outlaws and taken to their camp, where he meets their leader, Captain Cully, who welcomes him, but Cully's middle-aged female companion, Molly Grew, is wary of the magician. When the outlaws ask their minstrel to sing of Robin Hood, much to Cully's chagrin, Schmendrick tries his hand at magic again. Instead of chanting random words this time, he says, "Magic, do as you will!" I found that way too late. Guess I'm a bumbling magician. And then, apparitions of Robin Hood and his merry men appear, and Cully's men and girlfriend chase after them. Angry, Cully ties Schmendrick to a tree, and in an attempt to set himself free, accidentally brings a tree to life and makes it fall in love with him. Note that the movie made the tree unnaturally busty. Ugh. Again, how'd it get away with a G rating? Then the unicorn comes along and sets Schmendrick free, commending him on his conjuring of Robin Hood, that it was true magic. The pair runs into Molly Grew, and as soon as she sees the unicorn, she demands, "Where have you been? Damn you, where have you been? Where were you when I was one of those innocent maidens you always come to? How dare you come to me now, when I am this?" Schmendrick asks if Molly can truly see her, and Molly says, "If you have been waiting to see a unicorn as long as I have." So she sees the unicorn because she believes. Gosh, this scene hits harder when you're an adult. When Molly hears that this is the last unicorn in the world, Molly forgives her and offers to join on the quest. For no reason at all, really. She just needs something to do and wants out of this outlaw life. But Schmendrick's like, "No, we're off to find King Haggard." "Well, you're going the wrong way." Can I just say how much I love Molly? You don't usually see women like this on fantasy quests. We really need more of them. Now, how our heroes learn about the Red Bull and King Haggard differs in the book and the film. In the book, they learn the stories from the villagers in Haggard's kingdom. But in the movie, Schmendrick relays rumors to the unicorn, for time reasons. Also, so you don't have to have additional characters. The book explains of a prophecy that a child of the town Hagsgate will one day be the king's undoing. But generally, King Haggard is a recluse who cares little for his people, and the Red Bull is supposed to be real or a ghost. No one really knows. One that protects the king or keeps him prisoner. Overall, a mystery. And just when the heroes are a day's walk from Haggard's castle, the Red Bull appears and chases the unicorn. Molly begs Schmendrick to do something, to use his magic. And Schmendrick decides that if he changes the unicorn into a different creature, the bull will leave her alone. And so, saying, "Magic, do as you will," the unicorn is transformed into a lovely human maiden. Once the bull leaves, Molly demands that Schmendrick change the unicorn back, that she will go mad in this mortal body. Sure enough, when the girl wakes up, she goes, "What have you done to me? I wish you would let the bull take me. I could feel this body dying all around me." But Schmendrick insists it's only for a little while, that as a human, she'll have a better chance of reaching Haggard and the bull and finding the other unicorns. And the unicorn admits she's not ready to face the bull again, and so agrees, though she fears this mortal body more than she does the bull. Our heroes make it to the castle and introduce the newly changed unicorn as the Lady Amalthea, Schmendrick's niece, though I'm not sure how they're able to take their word for it. And the guards escort them to the throne room. It turns out the guards are the king himself and his son, Prince Lear, who is immediately smitten by Amalthea. King Haggard lives up to his name. He's very haggard looking. His castle is practically ruins. He keeps no servants and doesn't keep anything around that doesn't make him happy. This, by the way, is voiced by Christopher Lee, who would later be Saruman in the Lord of the Rings movies. Ironically enough, the movie was made by the same people who did the animated Hobbit and Lord of the Rings films. So, there you go. So, Haggard initially refuses when the trio offer their services. And besides, he already has a magician, a master. And then Molly points out that this master magician doesn't make him happy. How do you know that? Well, just look at you. Oh, Molly, throwing some shade there, girl. I need to have a better hand on these sound effects. And so the king fires his master magician in favor of an incompetent one to see if that will make him happy. Yeah, that's how the guy is. The king immediately notices something off about Amalthea, other than the fact that she is completely nude and wrapped in Schmendrick's cape. In the book, they explain that they were attacked by bandits. But he particularly notices how he cannot see his reflection in her eyes. But instead, he sees woodland creatures. It's only through Lear's insistence that he ignores this oddity and doesn't ask more questions about who she is. Time passes. Lear tries to win Amalthea's heart through noble deeds, like slaying a dragon, but all he gets in return is a pitiful look that makes him feel guilty for killing the beast. He tries asking Molly for advice, saying that though he knows nothing about her, he wishes to serve her. He just doesn't know how. He's just not good with words. Meanwhile, Amalthea is slowly forgetting who she is, and the book mentions her loss of her powers when she tries to heal a sick horse and is upset when she cannot. I mean, think about it. When you are an immortal being who has all these powers that can heal people, even bring back the dead, and to suddenly have yourself stripped away of that dignity, it can be pretty, well, it can take a toll on your identity. Then a cat warns Molly that if Amalthea doesn't complete her quest, she'll soon become a full woman and possibly marry the prince. Oh yeah, the cat talks. Sometimes you need no other explanation other than magic in these kind of stories. Molly asks the cat how to find the Red Bull, and he offers a riddle. When the wine drinks itself, when the skull speaks, when the clock strikes the right hour. I know, right? Can you believe Peter S. Beagle made most of this story up as he went along and he had no idea where this one was going? Now that's a pantser, as we call in the writing community. While Molly and Schmendrick try to solve this riddle, Amalthea is plagued with dreams of her past, traumatic moments like the harpy and Mommy Fortuna. My guess is, now that she's human, events like this have a bigger emotional impact on her. She wakes in the middle of the night and runs into Prince Lear and talks to him for the first time. He says that he'd court her with more grace if he knew how and wishes she wanted something from him. Amalthea wants him to drown out her dreams and help her to forget her troubles. And then they fall in love. Man, that was fast. The king catches Amalthea alone, staring out at the sea. Upon seeing Lear return from a quest, the king explains that the prince is not his real son, that he found him as a baby, and thought having a son would make him happy. It did for a while, but didn't last long. Sheesh. Father figure of the year, everybody. Only one thing has ever made him truly happy. Unicorns. When he first saw one, he told the Red Bull to hunt down all the unicorns and drive them into the sea, where Haggard can watch them forever! Because apparently unicorns can survive underwater? I don't think this is really explained. But Amalthea insists that she sees nothing in the water. The king claims to know what she is, pretending to be human. But then he sees her eyes, empty as Lear's, and can now see his reflection in them. Amalthea has truly forgotten who she is. The king, deciding to wait for the right moment, leaves her alone. That night, Molly, Schmendrick, and Amalthea go down to the room with the skull and a broken clock. And the skull starts speaking because, they could just do that. They ask the skull the way to the Red Bull, but he's like, no. They try to solve the part of the riddle with the wine, but all Molly could find was water and suggests Schmendrick use it to turn it to wine. It doesn't work, but the skull thinks it's actual wine and demands it. See, he can't actually taste it because he's dead, but he wants to remember the taste, not knowing the vial's empty now. And so, after taking the fake wine, he tells them the way to the Red Bull. It's through the clock. But as they are leaving, the skull recognizes the unicorn and alerts King Haggard. Molly and Amalthea go through the clock while Schmendrick stalls Haggard. Oh yeah, and Lear shows up as he followed Amalthea. Lear ex machina. This guy's kind of a creep. I'm kidding. But seriously, though, he's kind of shoehorned into this scene. When Schmendrick makes it through the clock, Haggard destroys it, so our heroes have no choice but to take the exit through the Bull's Passage. The whole story is explained to Lear, including Amalthea's true identity. Lear's response? Unicorn, mermaid, sorceress. Makes no difference to me. I love who I love. And Schmendrick's like, that's a sweet sentiment and all, but when I change her back to her true form, I love who I love. You gotta admire this guy for his loyalty. But Amalthea insists that she isn't a unicorn, she's human. She wants to grow old and die with Lear, and she will not love him if she's a unicorn. But Lear says no. As a hero, he knows she must fulfill her quest and rescue the other unicorns. Being a hero requires sacrifice. The happy ending cannot come in the middle of the story. Molly says, but what if this isn't a happy ending at all? Schmendrick says, there are no happy endings, because nothing ever ends. Truer words were never spoken. The Red Bull then appears, and since Amalthea is useless as a human, no, really, she is useless as a human, Schmendrick changes her back. But the bull is strong and attempts to drive her into the sea with the others. Lear tries to stop the bull, but he is killed in the process. Seeing Lear's body gives the unicorn the strength to fight back and drive the bull into the sea. Now that the other unicorns have nothing more to fear, they run out of the sea. Haggard's castle comes tumbling down with Haggard in it. I knew you were the last! Our unicorn returns and uses her magic to heal Lear. As a final goodbye to him. So, heartbroken Lear becomes king, and Molly and Schmendrick go off together. One night, Schmendrick finds the unicorn again, and she says that she's afraid to go home, as a part of her is still mortal, for no unicorn was ever born to regret, but she has. Schmendrick apologizes for turning her human and causing her to feel all this, but she insists that now that unicorns are in the world again, she will always find joy in that. And so, the unicorn bids a final farewell to her friends and returns to her forest. Yeah, not the ending you expect from a fairy tale. Sure, the heroine does what she set out to do. She wants to go save the unicorns, and she saves the unicorns. But at the cost of her newfound happiness. No prince, no wedding, everyone good lives, and unicorns are in the world again, but some conflicts do not reach the desired resolution. It's definitely a lot to unpack from this story, despite the author pretty much making up the whole thing as he went along. Mostly, the story portrays the loss of innocence. We start with the protagonist who, despite her age, has never left her forest and knows very little of the outside world. By leaving her forest, her safe space, in hopes of restoring the world to what it once was when unicorns thrived, she learns that to most humans, she is not as revered as she is by the woodland creatures, or respected for that matter. Demoted to a mere horse, while others like Mommy Fortuna seek to exploit her and treat her as a prize. And also people like King Haggard who want to own her. You know, I think a lot of women come to this realization at some point that we are valued not as living beings by many, like as objects, side pieces, worth only for our looks, or just completely ignored. And from people like Molly Grew, the unicorn learns about mortality and how youth is fleeting to humans. Something that she's never thought about, being immortal herself. And she learns this more when she becomes human herself, when emotions like fear and regret come crashing down on her. But there are positive emotions that come with growing up too, like love. Admittedly, I think Amalthea falling for Lear happens too quickly, even in the book. My interpretation is that, in an effort to forget her suffering, she latches onto the first person to offer her comfort, as a human rather than a unicorn. And I think also because, unlike Haggard and Mommy Fortuna, Lear doesn't wish to own or covet her, but serve her. Though I still think Lear only loves her for her beauty. However, she does help him to realize what being a hero truly means. It's not about glory, or doing great deeds, or winning the hand of a fair maiden. It's about selflessness, sacrifice, as he sacrifices his own happiness and life for Amalthea's sake, in the end. Even if it means that he can't have her. Our unicorn learns what love is, but in the end accepts her duty over her own heart. But she still saves Lear, even though their love was never meant to be. Peter S. Beagle actually wrote a short sequel to the book titled Two Hearts, which takes place decades later. Molly and Schmendrick still travel together, not really romantically involved. I mean, it's actually called into question of whether they're married or not. Molly's like, no, we are not husband and wife, but we have been together for a long time. Take with that what you will. And Lear, meanwhile, is an old and wise king in his adoptive father's place. Revered for his heroism, but since Amalthea, he's never found another. So he's an old bachelor. In the story, he fights a griffin, terrorizing a village. The griffin is defeated, but Lear is fatally wounded. Schmendrick summons the unicorn to save him, but she heals an injured dog instead. Molly explains that the unicorn loved Lear enough to let him go. So yeah, not even in the sequel do we get the typical happily ever after. As Schmendrick says, nothing truly ends. Life goes on. We as human beings will have many happy and sad times, but they are only fleeting, impermanent. And at some point in time, we all must come to terms with that reality. But through all our sorrows and regrets, there will be silver linings, like how Amalthea will always regret leaving Lear, but will not regret saving her own kind. And though we cannot always have the people we love, the short time we spent with them will always be remembered, and that makes the short time worth it. Jam, I think I'm gonna cry. Alright, so does anybody in the chat have any last minute thoughts or questions to offer? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is a pretty heavy story. I really recommend reading the book or seeing the movie. You know, the movie may have animation that appears outdated nowadays, but it's really beautiful. And oh my gosh. And just turning things on the head. The king is, you got a king who doesn't bask in wealth, but he's got obsessions of his own kind. You got a prince who is a hero, but he's also terrible at romancing. And your heroine is a unicorn who goes through an unusual transformation, and you have Molly Grew joining the quest, who is not a young maiden and not a man. And you have Schmendrick, who is a magician, but he's not a very good magician. Not really the kind of people you'd expect in your ragtag group of heroes. Okay, BellaPinkSavage says, thanks again for the weekly tears. Yeah, I knew I heard Molly's voice from somewhere, so I looked it up, and she was Katrina from My Little Pony Generation 1. Oh, more unicorns! Yeah, the movie definitely has a lot of stars in there, and you know, a lot of them are dead now that I think about it. And we had the voice of Rosemary from Rosemary's Baby as the unicorn, which I think is like the perfect voice. It's soft and also has a wisdom to it. Just wow. Yeah, Mia Farrow, thank you. I blanked on the name for a second. Then you got Paul Frees in there, and Renee Auberjois. You'll know him from The Little Mermaid, Le Poisson. Oh, okay. A lot of big names in that movie. Okay, so next time I'll be covering a more traditional fairy tale. And when I say traditional, I mean it's old. It's been used by the Brothers Grimm and Charles Perrault. At the same time, it's not a traditional fairy tale, as it doesn't follow their usual formula. And this is the fairy tale Bluebeard, which, if you've heard of it, you know is not for the faint of heart. Not a romance. Alright, well, this has been Beauties and Beasts. Until next time, remember, the world isn't perfect, people aren't perfect. Life will disappoint you sometimes, but all you can really do is make the best of it. No joke or punchline this time. Enjoy the things you love while they last, because nothing lasts forever.